I've missed so many of those. Just a couple weeks ago, my heart was breaking because within like 24 hours, I just totally blew. One of them was this young guy, and he's so eager, just been to church one time, and he's so excited, and I could tell, you just see this like hunger in his eyes. And somebody introduces me to him, and I'm like, hey, how you doing? Okay. And I was preoccupied, thinking about other things. Opportunity gone. These divine moments. See, here's what happens though as a church. As we begin to look for these divine moments and pray for these moments to occur in our lives, something starts changing. Our life starts to kind of get reorganized around the gospel and around the kingdom of heaven. Because now we're tuned in. Our eyes are focused less here and more out there. Our eyes are focused less on our needs and our problems and our hurts and our insecurities and focus more on those that are hurting all around us. When I used to do youth ministry, there was this lady youth pastor, and just amazing to watch this lady love kids, students in student ministry. And one of the things that she said one time to a group of leaders of us, awesome youth pastor guys, right? She said, if you would just quit being so stinking insecure about yourself and actually care enough to go ask that kid how they're doing, Jesus would use you. It seems like so much of our energy is consumed with, what do they think? What if I don't know what to do? What if I don't say it right? What if? So much of our energy is consumed by that we have no eyes to see these moments, these opportunities that the Lord brings to us. And so the mission stops. The mission is not real in our lives. And so we just kind of go through another day. The other opportunity that I see all the time is intentionally as the church, we recognize and dive in to crossroads. There's people that are always struggling everywhere. I just found out this week, 60% of Spokane County is below the poverty line. Blew me away. There's crossroads that people are running into every single day. These crossroads are physical, spiritual, emotional crossroads where there is absolute brokenness in their lives. I can't go on another day. I can't, it's just pure survival for right now, for today. And in those roads right there, there's very fertile soil for the gospel. And intentionally, as the church, we can be there in those moments. We have to organize our lives. We have to organize the finances of the church. We have to organize all of our structure, our calendar, everything to be there, but we can do it. We've seen it happen all over this county, all over this inland Northwest. There's all kinds of crossroads that people get to. The food room in Post Falls is now the #1 social service in Kootenai County. Over 7,000 people were fed through there last year. There's these crossroads, these moments of need and hurt that people are always going to be hitting, and we as the church can be there. And it's our job to be there. Jesus, I'm going to read you this passage out of Luke 4. He just finished this 40 days in the wilderness and being tempted, and he's coming on the scene. His ministry is beginning. He stands up in the synagogue. This is chapter 4, verse 17. There you go. He stood up in the synagogue, as was his custom, and he stood up to read. The scroll of the prophet Isaiah was handed to him, Jesus. Unrolling it, he found the place where it is written. This is Isaiah 61. The Spirit of the Lord is on me, because he has anointed me to preach good news to the poor. He has sent me to proclaim freedom for the prisoners and recovery of sight for the blind, to release the oppressed, to proclaim the year of the Lord's favor. Jesus is saying, this is what I've come to do. He says it right there 2 verses later. Today, the scripture is fulfilled in your hearing. That's what I've come to do. There's these crossroads, and Jesus recognized it, and so that's why the Pharisees, the good church people, are always going, why are you hanging out at the crossroads all the time? There's dirty people there. We don't accept them socially. But that's where Jesus always seemed to be. These moments of abandonment, imprisonment that these people are suffering through. All of us have been there. Don't pretend like you haven't. Some of us are currently there right now. You know the hopelessness of that moment, the brokenness that you feel in those times. And if anybody would just give you food to eat, just bread, just a cup of water, that would be amazing. Just to know that I can make it to the next day. And there's people every single day all around us hitting those crossroads. And we as the church a lot of times miss it completely. And the mission gets stopped. Jesus said, okay, I'm going to build my church and the gates of hell will not prevail against it. And so the test really becomes, are we Jesus' church or not? Because he's building his church. The gates of hell are not stopping. So if the gates of hell are stopping us, Jesus is not the problem. Now when we get in these moments, this Colossians verse, chapter 4, verse 5, really helps us. It says, be wise in the way you act towards outsiders. Wisdom is key. James 3, I've prayed for years for wisdom, and Lord, give me wisdom. I want to be wise, and I want to have godly wisdom. And it's interesting, though. I didn't know this until I was reading through James one time, and in James chapter 3, there's a really good definition of what godly wisdom is. Look at this with me. It's up here on the screen. Verse 13. Who is wise and understanding among you? Let him show it by his good life, by deeds done in humility that come from wisdom. But if you harbor bitter envy and selfish ambition in your hearts, do not boast about it or deny the truth. Such wisdom, I love James' sarcasm, does not come down from heaven, but is earthly, unspiritual, kind of point blank, of the devil. For where you have envy and selfish ambition, there you find disorder and every evil practice. But the wisdom, here it is, that comes from heaven is first of all pure, then peace-loving, considerate, submissive, full of mercy and good fruit, impartial and sincere. When these opportunities, these crossroads happen, when we come face to face with these folks that are lost, that are drifting, that are wandering, that are desperate for hope, be wise, is what Paul says in Colossians. You think about your business, you think about your family, what does this look like? Wisdom, peace-loving. A lot of times I think we interpret wisdom as knowing it all, having it right, being right. Paul's saying be wise when you encounter outsiders. Because if they encounter somebody that's a know-it-all, kind of shuts off that brokenness and that fertile soil that's been there. Make the most of every opportunity. Like we were talking about, we need to organize our lives around the gospel. And this last part, let your conversation be always full of grace. I think a lot of times we get in these situations, we get nervous and we're not sure what's going on. And how do we don't have answers, Lord. And this is where I just start praying internally, Lord, give me wisdom. Help me to see what you see, to hear what you hear. I don't know what's going on in the supernatural right now with this person in their life, but really help me to tune in to where you are, God. And one of the best ways to establish this posture, not only in our hearts, but in our face-to-face with folks, is to be full of grace. I think we have a tendency to talk too much, to try to have all the answers. I think we have a tendency to come across as know-it-alls. People have real questions, real hurts. We discount, that's not real. People have real frustrations or real bitterness and we kind of talk right over it. Francis Schaeffer, an author, a lecturer, he was credited with saying this. If he only had 1 hour to share the gospel with the person, he would spend the first 45 minutes finding out what the person believed about God, and the last 15 minutes presenting Christ from that basis. He'd spend the first 45 minutes, what? Asking questions and listening. Seems like so much of us, what we've seen or what we've been modeled is come in guns a-blazing and hope they duck and they really accept Christ quick. Otherwise, that's it. We as the church need to become students, learners, humble, full of grace. I love that this isn't just some great leadership technique. Jesus, John 12:49 says, I don't speak on my own authority. The Father who sent me has commanded me what to say and how to say it. So many of us, it's like, well, this is the truth, and you just need to come in line with it. People go, whoa, whoa, whoa. No thanks. We present ourselves in this real harsh and hard way. And because of that, people are turned off from the gospel. Jesus came, John 1:14, came full of truth and grace.